Hello, everybody. This channel, Destination Abroad, is all about living and working in another country. We talk to people who moved abroad to live and work there. And if you are interested or you're planning the same thing, then please feel free to subscribe. And today we're talking to Rita, who right now is in Bali, Indonesia. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. So Rita is well known in Hungary as the girl in a yellow dress. She has written some books. She has written so today I'm going to ask her about her experiences and maybe if she's got any tips for us. So, Rita, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you in Bali and how did you get there?
I'm in Bali because I like it. And it was a very tricky way how I got here because when I got here almost 4 years ago, the first time I didn't know what Bali was. I didn't know what Indonesia was. What happened is I worked as a personal assistant in Hungary at a multinational company. I had a good life, I had a good job, but I realized that if I want to travel the world, like I have nothing but time, I cannot do it if I work for somebody or for a multinational company, because usually what you get is like a 2-3 weeks holiday a year if you're lucky. And you have to ask permission to go for a holiday. So usually when I traveled like this, after 2 or 3 weeks, I felt it's not enough. I want more. I just started to feel the vibe of the country, or just started to meet new people. So this is not what I wanted. So I realized that if I want to travel like I have nothing but time, I have to change my life. So more than 4 years ago, it was 2014 October, I bought a flight ticket to Nepal and I went to the Himalaya. I sold my apartment in Budapest to support my travels. Actually, I didn't get too much money because the bank owned half of the property, and I quit my job. So I started to travel indefinitely. I didn't have any plan. I just had a one-way ticket to Nepal, and I thought, okay, after that, I will travel in Southeast Asia. So this is what I did. I went from country to country. I went to Nepal, China, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, so the typical Southeast Asian countries. But after 4 months of backpacking, I was on a low budget. I spent $25 per day, including all the flight tickets. So if I don't count the flight tickets, it was only about like $18 a day. And when I got tired, I felt that I need a rest. So I was looking for house sitting assignment somewhere near a beach, because I knew that I needed the beach and warm. So there was 2 possibilities: going to Pattaya in Thailand or going to Bali, Indonesia. I heard about Pattaya, that there are many tourists, but I didn't have any information about Bali. I knew that it was touristic as well, but I didn't know anything else. So actually, I got this assignment. So I came to Bali for 1 month. It was 2015, March the 4th. Since then, I'm in Indonesia. So this is how I got here.
It always starts with just 1 month, and then next thing you know, you're stuck there.
Yes. Yes.
So you started off as a house sitter. What does that mean? What do you have to do as a house sitter?
It depends on the house owner, but usually house sitting is not a job. It's like, for example, I have a house and I have animals in the house, cats, dogs, whatever. And I would like to go on a holiday, or I have to go somewhere because of something I want to do somewhere else. And I have to be away for weeks, for example, like 2-3 weeks or 1 month. But I cannot do anything with the animals. Who is going to take care of them? I need somebody in my house. So I hire a house sitter who will stay in my house, usually for free. And in exchange for accommodation, she or he can stay in my house. Uh, in exchange for accommodation, he or she will take care of my animals, and what she or he has to pay is only for food. Sometimes on some assignments they need to pay for electricity or other bills, but in my case I didn't have to. So this is how it started. And on the internet there are many websites for this, and you can apply for assignments like this. Easy.
Sounds really interesting. I've never tried it myself, but yeah, it sounds like something. It's nice and good thing to do if you want to stay somewhere for a bit longer and get to know the locals, because I assume you got to know the local cuisine, the people, the neighbors, maybe.
Yes, exactly. You can experience the real life, because what happened to me was when I came to Bali, it was a lesser known parts of Bali where I had the house sitting. It's in Ahmed, East Bali. And if you open the Lonely Planet book, only maybe 2 or 3 pages are about Ahmed. And I was lucky because in the first month when I was there, I didn't really know Ubud, Kuta, or any other famous touristic places in Bali. I just knew the small village where I stayed. And it was like with local people, local fishermen. So actually, I really saw the real life around me every day, what happened. So actually, I think this is a good thing if you are interested in the culture.
I get asked these questions because I have done some travels myself, and a lot of people ask me the same thing, which is, weren't you scared to go there alone as a woman to the middle of nowhere? Because obviously it's not a very touristic destination. Ahmed, did I say it right?
Yeah, now it has changed a little bit, but it's on the same island actually. On the same island, like Bali is a well-known tourist destination, but it's a lesser known part, yes.
And did you feel scared any time during your stay?
In Ahmed?
Yeah.
No, it's not a place like that. Actually, I'm not scared in Bali either. I'm not scared in Indonesia. There are some parts where you have to be more cautious than other places, but I'm not scared to go anywhere if I have to go alone as a woman.
I actually have been to Bali myself, so I know that people are really nice, and I felt absolutely safe. But this is the question that always comes up when I talk to people about traveling alone. That they always ask you, like, "Aren't you scared? Like, what if you lose your stuff, or what if someone comes up to you?" But I think most countries in Southeast Asia are pretty safe. They don't bother you really. They probably just want to sell you a sarong or some souvenirs, but that's about it.
Yes and no. I mean, in Vietnam, actually, I got robbed once and I got attacked once. And in China, one time an old man tried to steal my phone. But apart from that, during these years that I've been traveling, nothing happened. So sometimes but you should know the rules. But even if I knew some rules, sometimes the environment is different and you don't think about it. Like that time I had the rule as a woman traveling alone that after dark I'm not going out alone. And when I was attacked, I wasn't alone technically because I was biking with two guys. Actually, we were on a trip from Saigon to Hanoi in Vietnam, and um, and they were faster than me, so I got left behind. But I didn't think I was alone, and it was already dark. because somehow I felt that the guys are around me, but technically I was alone. So this is when it happened. So sometimes you can trick yourself. And when I got robbed, that was a typical robbing that happens to many tourists in Saigon when when a motorbiker just grabs your bag on your shoulder and takes it, and like it's actually
So quick.
ripped from your body. I
Mhm.
don't know how to say, but I think you understand.
Yeah.
And I knew that this is a problem. And when I crossed the road, I didn't see anyone. The motorbiker just came out of nowhere, so I couldn't avoid. So sometimes I think it's hard, but it can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter if you are a girl or a man, I think.
Yeah, and it actually can happen anywhere, you know. Um, Now, you have stayed in Bali for many years. What made you stay in Bali? Because you have visited other countries as well. So why Bali?
Sorry, the internet connection was a bit interrupted. So your question was that why did I stay in Bali?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so actually, I wanted to stay in Indonesia, and I travel in this country a lot. Like I've been to so many islands because I try to look for different cultures, different people, how they live, because this country is so diverse. There are more than 17,000 islands and lots of cultural tribes that I want to see. So actually, I started to travel in Indonesia after Southeast Asia. And sometimes it's hard for a Westerner to travel in Indonesia if you want to go to a lesser known part of the country, because sometimes there is no electricity, there is hardly enough food, or there is food but there's no choice. I don't like to eat meat, so actually maybe you can eat rice with eggs or maybe some vegetables. Or the hygienic environment is not so good, like you have no shower, you have a mandi, which is like a small bathtub, and you have to use like a small bucket and wash yourself with cold water. Or sometimes there is not even bathroom, but you have to wash in the river, which is actually good too. So when you travel for weeks like this, you really want something nice, you want comfort, you want something better. At least me, I want. So that's why I have a base in Bali, because here there is hot water, there is electricity, there is a fan or air conditioning if I need to. There is cappuccino, like similar to what I have in home. If I want to eat a pizza, there are plenty of restaurants for that. Or if I want to eat a burger or anything else, same. And I can stay here for 3-4 weeks, which is comfortable. But after that, I feel again that I have to go somewhere. So after that, I regain my energy, myself, and then I'm ready to go again. So this is how I do it. I have a base in Bali, and then I travel somewhere.
So you have the traveling spirit in you.
Maybe. Yes.
And then when you left Hungary, so you embarked on this journey. How did you prepare? So obviously you bought some gear, you bought some clothes, but um, did you plan your journeys? Did you learn some of the language? How did you prepare?
um, I didn't really prepare because actually I had to sell my house first. I didn't know when it will happen. It happened at the end of August that year, and after that I had a little bit more than 1 month before I start the journey. Actually, 2 months. Sorry, 2 months. So I didn't want to buy anything really, just some small things, some necessary things, because I knew that I don't want to carry so much. I'm 45 kilogram. So if I have a backpack that is 15 or 20 kilo, it's like almost half of my body weight. So I don't want to carry that around. So actually I wanted to travel with a smaller bag and not so much stuff. So the clothes, I didn't really bring much. I knew that I'm usually around tropical climates, so I don't need warm clothes. I had a friend who came with me to Nepal. So after we finished in the Himalaya, he took home my big shoes and some warm stuff that I had with me. So I didn't have to carry that around. I prepared maybe with bank cards, but that time I didn't know much about traveling, especially traveling alone. I didn't really know much. So since then I learned a lot and I changed methods and changed bank cards and everything. So actually that time I didn't prepare too much, I think. Just went because I decided it was my decision. So I knew that now there's no turning back. I don't want to turn back. I want to experience it because I was thinking one day in my bed before I went to sleep that, okay, honestly answer yourself. If this day was the last day of your life, honestly, would you have been doing the same stuff this day as you did today? And then I was thinking, well, there are some things that I still want to do. I want to try this, I want to experience that, I want to meet with someone, you know, all these things. And I was like, okay, but if I wouldn't do the same if this was my last day, then why did I not do that? Because who can guarantee that there is tomorrow? Nobody. So this was one thing that made me really go that, okay, this no more days, you have to do it. And since then, I don't regret anything. It was really the best decision that I made.
That's really good, and I'm glad it worked out for you well.
Thank you.
Now you obviously speak English well. I wonder how much did it help you on your journey, or how important was it to speak English when you, or now also when you live in Bali?
Um, in some countries, like for example China, yeah, China, English is not useful because Chinese people don't really speak English. They speak Chinese, and their letters are different also. So I cannot even read anything. So I had like a translation application and kind of dictionary on my phone downloaded. That's really important working offline as well because sometimes there is no phone coverage. So sometimes it helped, sometimes it didn't. So it makes it more difficult, but life helps you because in China, I met my friends and they spoke a little bit of Chinese, and then I met a Swedish girl on the way on a bus stop who was going into the same direction, and she came to China to practice Chinese because she was a Chinese student back her country. So actually I was traveling with her for 2 or 3 days, so she translated everything. So sometimes life helps you. And other Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines, there's no problem with English, they speak it. In Vietnam, most of the people speak English. Cambodia, same. Bali, most of the people speak English here if you do the touristic stuff. But if you go around Indonesia and if you decide to stay here for longer, it's better to learn the local language. So I started to learn Indonesian from an application first, and after that from the people from the street. So it helps me now going around. And with the Indonesian language, sometimes I'm good in Malaysia also because it's really similar. So when I went to Malaysia, I could talk to the local people in Indonesian. I just had to change some words because they had different words for some stuff. So actually, it's good now. But when I came to Bali, I didn't want to learn Indonesian because I felt I didn't have to, because in Bali, people speak Balinese most of the time. And the Balinese language is really difficult. They have different letters, like similar to Sanskrit.
I was going to ask, is Indonesian and Balinese language very different to each other?
Yes, because the Indonesian language, the Bahasa Indonesia, is like a common language for the country. That's a new language. That's a made language, like artificial language. I think it was they use it, I think, 1945 or 1946, something like this. And in Indonesia, according to some source online and other sources, there are more than 700 different languages, because not only every island has different languages, but in each island have more different cultures and tribes that have their own language as well. So normally an Indonesian person speaks already two languages. One of their native language, from where they are coming from, which island, I mean, or which tribe, and then the Indonesian language. So Balinese are the same. They start to learn the Indonesian language at school when they are 5 years old. Before that, they speak Balinese. So this is all over Indonesia, and like 100 years ago, people from different islands hardly could understand each other because they didn't speak the same language. Interesting, isn't it? So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Balinese is not really useful for me if I go outside of Bali, because people will not understand me.
Wow. So you actually learned a bit of Indonesian and a bit of Balinese, or mainly Indonesian, and just picked up Balinese while you're there?
Balinese, I don't speak at all. I don't know nothing. Maybe just the thank you I know in Balinese. But
I see.
But Indonesian, that's what I learned because I thought it's useful. And it is useful because if I go to Papua or if I go to Flores or Sumatra, everybody can understand.
So you travel a lot.
Yes.
Is that so? People probably wonder, like, how can you finance all this traveling?
Yes.
That's I know that you have written books, but I just want you to talk about it.
Okay. So basically, in the first 2 years, I was spending the money that I got from my apartment that I sold before. And people were really worried around me. They kept asking me, what will happen if the money is gone and then there's no house, no money? What will you do? What if this? What if this? What if that? And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. But when I get there, I will find a solution. Then I will know what I want. Right now, I don't know what I want in 2 years, you know? So what happened in 2016, 22nd of May, I got a really big motorbike accident in Bali. And I got into hospital care. I had a surgery on my face and I had some wounds on my right side of the body and all of my face, legs. So it was quite serious, but I had insurance. So the insurance company, who actually, after 1 year of my traveling, started to sponsor me with insurance in Hungary, they paid for everything. They paid for the surgery, the hospital stay, and they paid for a flight to take me home to recover, because in an emergency or in an accident, it's their task what they have to do. And that time, 2016 May, I was just about finishing my money. and I had to think of a solution what I will do to get money, because I didn't want to go back to work. I didn't want to go back where I started, because I was already a different person. I wanted to be free like now. So while I was recovering from my accident in Hungary, I started to write a book. This was my first book, actually. It's in Hungarian language. And then it was self-published in November the same year, sponsored by 2 companies. So actually the first few hundred copies I didn't have to pay for, because the sponsor companies paid me that. And I started to sell the book. And this is where my money started to come back, because many people bought the book. They loved it. So thank you so much for the people who bought my book and who gave me a good review. So this helped me to travel more, or actually to come back here. I would like to say something before somebody start to ask where is your income coming from. That living in Indonesia, I don't spend as much money as I would spend back in Hungary. Like my rental, house rental, or actually I rent a room, is much less. The food costs less. I have a motorbike, which doesn't cost me rental fee, only fuel. And I don't have big needs. I live a very simple life. So actually I spend 1/4 of the money in a month that I would spend in Hungary. So actually I don't need a big income to support this lifestyle here in Indonesia, or actually most of the countries in Southeast Asia. But it's a luxury for me to eat in a Western style restaurant, where a food would cost me around maybe 5 or 6 euros, because I spend much less on food. And after this, people started to see me as a person who they can talk to when they come to Indonesia, because I can help them with information, with actual information, which is not from 5 years ago. So actually,
Not from an old book.
not from an old book, because I'm still here. I can tell them the prices. I can tell them what to do or what not to do, or where to go, or what is the situation. For example, when a volcano erupted, is it really safe to come here, or please don't come, or things like this. And actually, people come to me and ask for advice, which is a service from me. So,
And
yes.
I know you have written blogs as well. They were very
Yes.
popular, weren't they?
Yes, it still is. And also, what I did last year, I worked. Maybe for somebody it's not a real work, but it was a hard work. We were making a documentary series with 2 of my friends in Indonesia, which is on air in the Hungarian television right now. Actually, we had to pay for everything, because we wanted to do it anyway. So hopefully later there will be some income from that, I hope, and all of us hope that. And also, after 3 years being in Bali, I wrote another book, second one, the Bali book, which was published as well already. So now I have 2 books, and this Bali book is being translated at the moment to English. So it will be available worldwide this year as well. So,
Congratulations.
yes. Thank you.
I have seen some of the documentaries. They are really good and very interesting. I know they are airing on Ozone TV.
Yes.
At the moment.
Yes. There are 4.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to see the other ones, because I've only seen a couple, unfortunately, but I'm looking forward to the other ones.
I hope you will like it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. And another question.
Yes.
So you you obviously you look happy and you found your calling. I can say your books are brilliant and they're very popular. So are your blogs. But what about your family? What do they think? Do they miss you? Do they want you to come back?
My family is already used to me being abroad for a long time, because when I was 20 years old, I moved to England. I moved to London for almost 5 years. I lived there. And after that, a few years later, I went to the US, to Mississippi, to live and work in an Indian reservation. So this is not my first time living abroad. Actually, this is quite far away, and the time difference is 7 hours. So it's on like almost one day, one working day, which is a lot. So they are used to it, and they want me to be happy. And if I'm happy this way, they accept it. And they're very happy if I'm going home to visit, but they are not like calling me every day, Rita, please come home, we miss you, buddy. Because this is how my parents and my family gives me freedom, because
Yeah, they
they love me
support
from
you.
home. Yes, they support me.
That's very nice. And actually, how often do you go home? How often can you go home?
The first time I went home, it was 9 months after I left. And since then, I try to go home once a year, because actually one part of my income is like when I go back to Hungary, I earn money with, how do you say in English, like with presentations or giving speeches or something like this. Like there is an audience who is interested in Indonesia or Bali or other topics, and they come to my presentation, and I give out information, whatever they want. So this way, when I go home, I can earn money and I can work. And this is really useful for everybody, because many people want to come to Indonesia. So it's better to see me face to face. So now I try to go home once a year. Last year I was really lucky because I went home twice. One was the book publishing event that I didn't really want to go home, but I had to, because this was a big event and I had to be there. And actually it was really good. I really enjoyed, even if I worked a lot. And at the beginning of the year, because I already had a contract with one of the travel organization companies to make a presentation at the huge event in the country. So that's why I had to go home. So now when I go home, it's not really only for pleasure, but for work as well.
Oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. Next time you come, let me know. I want to hear one of these speeches. And so I have lived in England myself, and at the moment there is all this news about Brexit.
Yeah.
But it was quite easy to go and work there, as I think from 2004 when we joined the European Union. So I know that like as a Hungarian, I didn't need to have a visa. I could go there, I could work there. It was relatively easy. How was it for you?
I went there in 2001 and the visa was necessary. So it was not so easy. I could go with au pair visa that was valid for 2 years, and I had to live with a family and work for them and got very little money. So in the first year, I lived with a family and I learned English from the kids who I was looking after, because they were teaching me, because they thought I was a bit stupid because I didn't speak their language. So we had so much fun. I loved it. But after that, the money wasn't enough. And actually, my boyfriend at that time wanted to come too. So we wanted to live together. So I moved out of the family and I was looking for another job that was paid better. Was still looking after children, but I didn't live in. I lived out. So that time, after my 2 years ended, I had to go back with a student visa, which I had to pay for school, and they gave me a visa for, I think, 9 months or something like that. And after that, I used a tourist visa, or I don't even remember, but I always needed visa, and it was not so easy that time. And you couldn't really work easily. Only sometimes they looked at your paper, or sometimes you had to get a job. And from 2004, when we joined the European Union, everything was different all of a sudden. Within few months, everything changed. There were many people started to come. So actually, many people from Eastern Europe started to work for very little money. And the English people realized this. So I already had a good client, so they gave me high salaries. But if I started to work in 2004, that would be much different, because I should have gotten much smaller salaries than before, because I couldn't really compare. I mean, couldn't really compete with the other Eastern Europeans who are willing to work for very little money, which is hardly enough for living a life. So I left in 2005 at the end of the year,
And
went back to Hungary.
did you go back to Hungary and then went to America soon after, or was there some time between?
It was 2 years later, in 2008, because I started to work in Hungary as a personal assistant. And in the meantime, I started to study in university. And it was 2008 when I could do like a professional training that was compulsory for the school, 15 weeks. But actually, I didn't stay for 15 weeks. I stayed for 6 months. And I got like a proof that, okay, I worked here. I worked at a casino on the marketing department. So it was in 2008 when I went there. So it was like 2 years later. I really wanted, I was a bit homesick. I really wanted to go back and have a good life, like what everybody has, like a real one. Like you have a good job, like good life. Because before I was like playing all day with the children, which is still good. Now I want to go and want to do the same, but that time I wanted something different. And I think I was really lucky that whenever I wanted to do something different, I just made a choice and went that way, and then I changed.
I assume it was very different to live in England, in America, and in Bali. What would you say are the major differences?
With the people. Like, for example, when I lived in London, I was working for people who had a lot of money. They were rich. They had big houses, a good job. Really, money wasn't really an issue. But if I think about that life now, something was really missing from there. Like the families are living separated from the older generation. Everybody has their own house. Like when I lived with a family, we had a big house with 3 or 4 floors. When I was in the kitchen downstairs, I didn't even hear the kids what they were doing on the 3rd floor. You know, so it was like distances far away from each other. That this is how I felt. Here in Bali or Indonesia, people are living together. They don't want to keep distance from each other. They want to be together all the time. Generations live together, like 3, sometimes even 4 generations live together. They don't separate from their families. And when you travel alone, they ask you, where is your husband? Are you married? Oh, why not? No, not yet. You married? Or if you are already 38 years old, why don't you have children yet? So for them, it's it's like they cannot imagine what kind of life we live. And this is a huge difference what I saw back then and now. And I think I prefer this one here, because even if people don't have a lot of money, because sometimes I meet very poor people in this country, somehow here I feel nothing is missing. And this is so interesting feeling that many things are missing if I think materialistically, but nothing is missing if I feel emotional, or if I think emotionally. I don't know if you understand what I try to say, but
Yes,
this is
yeah,
how I
I
see it.
do understand actually. I felt the same when I was in Bali, that people were family orientated, they were open, they were talkative, they were genuinely interested in me and my life, and they would talk about theirs without any problem. They were really friendly, and they didn't complain all the time, which is what I
No,
experienced in Hungary.
no,
Yeah, they didn't look like they have a lot of materialistic stuff, but they still seemed happy and content.
yes.
That's my experience anyway. Um, Talking about experiences, so you had experience with the hospitals and the healthcare there. I hope it was only just that one accident.
Yes, I had dengue fever as well, but I didn't have to stay in the hospital that time.
I heard a lot about dengue fever, and they say it's very dangerous. Can you tell me a little bit about it? It's probably for my own interest because I'm curious. What is it like?
First, I felt the same as I had the flu, same symptoms, but I had a high fever. And a few days later, the fever was like this. Like one day I had the high fever, the second day, not so much. The second day, I felt that I had nothing. And the third day, I felt again that, oh, I cannot do anything because this is like a high fever. And a few days later, I had a big pain in my back, and started to my leg, my thigh started to itch, and it was really uncomfortable, because even if I went to take a shower, after shower, all the time it was itchy. I couldn't do anything with it. And I think after the third day, I went to hospital, and from my blood test, they told me I had dengue fever. So actually, they couldn't really give me too much medication, only like natural stuff. And I had to go back every day to check my blood. And it took like 8 or 10 days, like more than 1 week. But after that, I was good again. Sometimes I still have the same backache. I don't know when it comes. I cannot tell why, but it's the same feeling. I don't know if it's still from that or not, but yeah, this was dengue.
Okay, so it's interesting for me because I traveled in Asia for a long time, and luckily never had any problems. But I know people are, they always ask if you go somewhere in Asia, like, oh, do I need all these vaccines and all these illnesses? And yeah, so I just thought I ask you about the healthcare. Um, I also wanted to ask about the visa because I know it's not so simple to get a visa to stay in Bali for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, usually you can get a tourist visa or a social budaya visa for 60 days, and you can extend it 4 times. So in once you can stay here for 6 months. But after 6 months, you have to leave the country. This is one way to stay here. But with this visa, you are not allowed to do any work. It's illegal to work. So this way, you either have to have lots of money saved, or income from online, or some passive income, or some other sources. And if you are lucky, There are companies who can support you with working like working papers, but it's really expensive and long procedures. So you can stay like that as well, but you have to have like a company that you work. And with tourist visa, this is the only way. Or you can like volunteer for an organization with the social visa and they help you. But this is still the same. You have to leave in every 6 months.
Or even with the volunteer visa?
Yes, that's the same. Actually, you cannot really do volunteer work with that, but sometimes they close their eyes.
Okay. And yeah, I know there are some digital nomads and yoga teachers in Bali, or surf teachers. I know this is Bali is quite famous for good surf and yoga
Yes.
places.
Yes, but for doing that, you need like work permit. With the visa that I have, you cannot do any work. So I think this is the best way either to save money and come here or write books. Like when you are here, you are researching and you look for material, you write the book, and then you can publish in your country. This is a good way, I think.
Yeah, so I think the message is it's not so easy to get visa to go and work there. So everyone who wants to do that, they probably need to look into it before they go. But it's definitely a great destination. What were your, so now you're looking back, so obviously now you're comfortable, now you learn the language, now you know the area, but what were your, do you remember your first thoughts, your first impressions when you got there?
Of course, how can you forget? Like, if somebody already came to Bali, everybody is telling the same. There is something in here you cannot really explain. The feeling, the warmness, the feel of the tropical, the ocean, the smell, the taste, the I don't know, everything. There's something in the air that you feel the first moment when you land here and all the way you are here on this island. And whoever I've spoken to who already has been to Bali, everybody tells me the same thing. Like, I want to go back to Bali. This is like one of the best places I've been to. And let's be honest, Bali is not the most beautiful island of Indonesia. Bali is not the best island of Indonesia. There are much more beautiful places than this. But somehow the culture and really the atmosphere here, something that you cannot see, really gets into you and doesn't really let you go. I cannot explain what that
Yeah,
is.
I know
So
what you
this,
mean. I know what you mean. It's just that vibe, that energy, that feeling. You have to be there to understand.
yes, yes. So I still feel that. That's why I like to have a base here, to rent a room and to come back here because it's good. But I also have to go away because where I stay in Ubud, it's really touristic. It's really crowded all the time of the year. There's no high or low season. All the year is the same. And here, okay, I stay with a local family, which is good, but I am not in the same position when I first came here. So I need to be close to culture, close to locals. And I think I find it easier to be with local people if I go out of Bali and explore Indonesia.
And that brings me to my next question. Looking back now, would you have done anything different? If you could go back and talk to your younger self, let's say, would you?
No,
Would you? do anything different?
Maybe if I would do something different is only to start this kind of life earlier. But I think that time there was no such term as digital nomads, because this kind of term is quite new. Maybe there were people who were doing this, but they were not advertised, or they called themselves different. I don't know. So
yes, it's more popular, become popular in the last couple of years.
yes, and I think that also is also people in my country, we didn't really have a traveling culture, because how I saw it, like, traveling is expensive. Traveling is not for everyone. If you are rich, you can afford to do it. And I didn't really know any other possibilities. So actually the world started to open to me when I first went to Sri Lanka with my backpacks alone in 2014. That was my first solo travel. So this is when everything started. But in Hungary that time, there was no people who tell me that you can do this, you have this possibility. So actually, if I would do something different, I would start this whole new life earlier. This is the only thing.
Yes, I agree with you. If I could go back in time, I would do the same. I would just start doing what I'm doing now a lot earlier. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking to me. I'm going to put a link down for if you have a link for your blog, which I think I already have, but if you have a link for your books, I can put that down under the video. And so when your book comes out in English, we can update the links so anyone or everyone can get your book. And I run out of questions. So I say goodbye and thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much also, and for your time, and also everything.
Thank you. And have a good evening. I think it's late now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost sunset time.
All right. So we'll have a good evening and hope to speak to you soon in another time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.